Okay. So top one is
No solution.
because
Because it's a negative 15 in direction and you can't go in a negative direction, so it's positive. Oh, whatever.
Exactly. Wow.
and this is
One solution.
and what's the analogy here?
If you start at some place and you don't move anywhere, you're at that one place.
Perfect. And then lastly, we're at a center. We move 11 to the left, 11 to the right. Notice on each of these, the left side does not matter. The right side does not matter, except for the sign. So if you're wondering if you didn't get these fast, this is what they're looking at. There's a lot of information you don't need. If you're not finding the actual answers, if the question is how many solutions are there, you don't need all this. You just need to know negative, 0, and positive. Okay? I will warn you though, for the negative, it's only when you have absolute value equal to a negative number. Okay? So today you're going to find out that just because it starts with a negative on the right-hand side, it does not mean no solution necessarily. But if you have a distance, absolute value is a distance, if you have distance equals negative, then for sure there is no answer because you can't have a negative distance. Right. Good. So for today, I'm going to show you something slightly different, and you'll see that there's going to be values outside of the absolute value. So the question is, how do you get rid of a plus 7?
Yo, you subtracted. How about that?
And how do you get rid of
You
a
multiply
divided by 6
on both sides.
and a times 4?
Distribute.
Nope. A times 4 you
Divide.
divide by 4. So your goal is to actually get it to be a problem like last night's homework. So what we're doing today, tomorrow, and Monday really depends on you knowing how to do last night's homework. Okay, it's very important. Very important. So these steps, there's 4 steps for everything we're doing today, tomorrow, and Monday. The last 3 steps are last night's homework. If you've got your notes and you see in front of you, just yesterday this was 1, this was 2, this was 3. We're just adding in this today, the part in red that says clear around the absolute value. We're not going to distribute into it. We're just going to say anything not inside absolute value, we're going to undo it first and then solve it just like we did last night. So if you get the feeling like you did the same, you're doing the same thing tonight as you did last night, that's good. It feels like, man, these problems are really short compared to yesterday, something's wrong. Should be very similar. Yeah.
So you're just like subtracting the bull on that side.
No.
Right.
That's multiplication. 5 by 4. Okay. So real fast. Yeah. First thing I'm going to do is clear around the absolute value. I'm going to ignore what's inside the absolute value. It doesn't matter yet. And then this is last night's homework. That's when you break it up into 2. X equals positive 2. X equals negative 2. And don't forget to do the check. If you plug each of these in, you will get 9.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Okay. That's not what you said.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, say the 7 was the 4. I meant like subtract the 4 to put it on the other side.
Well, on here you can't subtract it. It's multiplication. You have to divide.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was getting at. So write these down just so you have a few and practice them in your notes. So it's going back to basics. You guys did this so long ago when you said, you know, in junior high, okay, what's the opposite of multiplying by 4? Divide by 4. It's the same deal. Don't overthink it. So you have to recognize, though, that 4 absolute value 10a plus 9 means 4 times. So you know to divide. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so it cancels out. So now we have 10a plus 9 equals 21. Be careful here with the absolute value. You don't want to make the absolute value too short so it looks like 110a. So if you can make it darker. That's one way to make it obvious that it's absolute value. Or just make them taller. Make it go a little bit above, a little bit below, and so it's obvious it's absolute value. After all this, learning all this algebra, you don't want to miss something simply because your handwriting, you know, is not clear. So here, next thing I should do is subtract 9 from both sides. Is that right?
Yeah.
No.
Or,
Yeah. Sorry. Because that's going to be the most common mistake. No, do the same thing as you did yesterday. Break it up into 2 parts. Notice how there's no absolute value here, so you can drop the absolute value when you're breaking it up. That's negative 21. So, yeah, you'll never have absolute value and be subtracting inside or dividing inside absolute value. It doesn't make sense because this is your center. Okay? Remember, graphically, we're doing this. We have a center, we have an answer this way, we have an answer this way, and here's one answer, here's the other. That's why I need 2 equations. It doesn't make sense to be messing with our middle point and just subtracting 9 from our middle. It changes where the middle is. Okay. But then from here on, that's last night. Solve, get your 2 answers, do a check, and that's it. So I'm not going to spend today, right now, I'm not going to go through and finish all these because you guys know, if you've been doing your work, you know what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to waste your time. So you guys get started on your work and maybe finish it. Okay. But we do have to practice, well, what should I do to, first of all, what's outside the absolute value on the left-hand side?
6.
And what is this 6, what kind of operation is being done with it?
Divided, so you have to multiply.
Okay, it's being divided, so multiply by 6 on both sides. Perfect. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Okay, next step is to subtract 1. Subtract 1 on both sides, right? No, don't do that. 1 minus 3x is 12. 1 minus x is negative 12. Then finish the problem. Okay, now you can finish just like we done. So as long as you don't start doing this stuff, you know, you have an absolute value, you're subtracting and adding, as long as you're not doing that, you're going to be fine. It might seem like repetitious and boring, and that's kind of good, because if math is boring, you're probably doing it right. Because it's the same thing over and over. It's not on the big picture, there's a big pattern. Once you know the pattern, you don't have to think as much. Real fast, what's the first step here?
Add 10 on both sides.
And the 2 equations are?
X plus 5 equals 4.
No?
No, X plus 5 equals 14, X plus 5 equals 9.
Oh,
There you go.
Oh, wow. That's why
14 and negative 14. Good.
That's why we don't do mental math. That's what I do. Because you're smart.
Good. All right. I'll leave it on here for a sec. Let you think about this. Ready? Write it down. Write this one out.
But I divide by negative 8 to make sure how is it multiplying by 8?
Do the same steps you'd always do. Yes. Now, how come, now that you've gone kind of through it already, how come this is not no solution? Because someone else might say, wait a minute, negative on the right-hand side. Last night, if there's a negative right-hand side, there's no solution. How come this does have a solution? Eric? Yeah. Positive 1. So yes, it does have a solution. Good. Finish it up. Finish it up. Finish it up.
I don't know how to do yeah, they're like, okay.
Right. You explain it really.
I don't like sitting in the front.
Whatever.
Which side over here? No. What's the next step? Good. Okay, next step is break it up. Next step is break it up. So some of you are on the last slide saying, okay, this is what you do next, right? I was trying to get you in that pattern of saying no, because I don't want you just to say, okay, subtract 9. Anytime you're working inside absolute value, you're not going to be adding, subtracting. Until you break it up, then you can subtract, then you can subtract. Okay? Only after you break it up. So, same thing over here. You're never going to have this times 9 inside it, because before we didn't distribute this. We didn't say negative 8x, and we didn't do that. We're not going to start doing that down here. Break it up first. Keep this simple. Some people will get kind of freaked out about this. This is asking what divided by 9 is 1. Well, 9 divided by 9 is 1. That's all. What divided by 9 is negative 1? Negative 9. So you probably know the answer. Then you can go back and how do I support that with some actual work? I have to multiply by 9 on both sides. 1 times 9, that's how I get the 9. Same thing here. But when it comes to division, some people like start getting weird. As long as you put together that a fraction is division, that's what a division sign is. It's a fraction without numbers. So 1 over 3 means 1 divided by 3. So these little dots in the division sign stand for the numerator and denominator. So if you think about what number divided by 9 is 1, oh, it's 9. You knew that in 4th grade. Okay? And it'd be easier for you to put it together. You will have answers that are fractions improper. Do not change into decimals. Do not change into mixed numbers. We don't use mixed numbers in algebra for a very good reason, because it gets confusing. And arithmetic, 2 and 1/3 is 2 and 1/3. It means 2 plus 1/3. But in algebra, if you put like 2x next to each other, this means 2 times x. So 2 and the third could mean 2 times a third. So we never want to use mixed numbers in algebra, because in algebra, when you put something next to it, it means multiplication. So that's why we keep everything as 7/3 or 40/3 or something like that. So it's just slightly different rules. So always a reduced improper fraction will be your final answer. Okay? What do you think? Yeah, so there's no negative 8 over here to divide and cancel out this negative. So you can still have no solutions, but you have to now check. Well, if you see a negative on the right-hand side, you kind of have to check over here to see, well, is there a negative I can divide by and get a positive? So besides that little nuance, a lot of it's very similar. However, it's very easy to make mistakes, as I kind of tricked you guys several times. Oh, I just do this next, right? Like, oh yeah, huh? So it's very easy to slip into something bad, and you do it wrong in every problem. It becomes an issue. So as you're doing this, you got lots of time. You got half hour. Do a few. Check with somebody. Check with somebody else. Make sure you're actually doing it right. Don't do the whole front side and find out, oh, these are all wrong. Now you have to unlearn what you're doing wrong. You have to go back and relearn to do it right and redo every problem. So as you go along, check it to make sure you're not making any small mistakes. Okay? Let's see here. I'll have the worksheet up here as well, and we'll do a few if needed.